I had a beloved lady I promised to marry. We were both 30, the same age, and I had proposed to her, wanting to spend my life with her. As I nervously held out the ring, she smiled with tears in her eyes and said, "I do. I will marry you." Oh yay, Mike, you're so loud. I didn't care about the people around us. I was too busy shouting with joy. I'm sorry, my face turned red as I apologized to Catherine. She laughed, finding my reaction funny. Catherine had lost her parents at a young age and lived with her grandmother. After seeking blessings from Catherine's grandmother for our marriage, I was on cloud 9, thinking our happiness would last forever. One day, Catherine and I decided to visit a nearby spa in Colorado. "Mike, you always overdo it with the long baths. Sorry, I feel dizzy. I had stayed in the bath too long and got lightheaded." It was getting dark outside, and I felt bad making Catherine drive, but I was too out of it to drive. "I'll drive us home, you can rest. I'm really sorry." I apologized repeatedly to Catherine and reclined my seat to lie down. That spa was so relaxing, right? Maybe that's why I stayed in so long. My skin feels so smooth. We should go again, yeah. I stared at the car's ceiling, lost in thought. From the car stereo, Catherine's favorite song played, lulling me like a lullaby, and I began to feel sleepy. Just as I started to doze off, I heard Catherine mumble, "Is that car behind us tailgating?" Those were the last words I remember before everything went black. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a bed 3 days later. Something was obstructing my view. I mustered all my strength to call out, "Hello, is anyone there?" I tried to shout, but all that came out was a whisper. "Mike, you're awake. This is a hospital. I'll call the doctor." I heard the nurse's voice and then the sound of footsteps. Soon after, a male voice, presumably a doctor's, spoke up. "Mike, can you hear me?" How are you feeling?" Why am I here?" My memory was a blank slate, but I soon remembered being with Catherine. Concerned, I asked the doctor about her. "Where's Catherine? Is she okay?" The doctor hesitated for a moment before answering, "Mike, you were in an accident." "Accident? What happened?" I started to recall fragments of that day. We were on our way home, with Catherine driving, when suddenly we felt a massive impact. But that was all I could remember. Neither the doctor nor the nurses would tell me anything more than about my own condition. Confined to my bed, unable to move, and with no way of finding out what had happened, a week passed by. I felt my health improving bit by bit, especially after they removed the bandage from my head. Beside my bed stood a woman with a weary face. Despite her stern expression, there was a hint of sadness. "Why are you the only one alive? Why just Catherine?" It was Catherine's grandmother, Margaret, who I had met when we announced our engagement. Margaret's loud voice echoed throughout the hospital room, berating me. I forced myself to sit up and asked, "Please tell me what happened. Don't you remember anything?" "Catherine had a severe head injury when she was brought here." "Why? Where's Catherine now?" "Catherine's funeral is already over. She had an organ donor card, so her body is." Margaret couldn't continue and broke down in tears, overwhelmed by grief. I screamed out loud, "Mike, you shouldn't be sitting up right now." Alarmed by my shout, a nurse quickly rushed in. I was gently but firmly held down by several nurses and made to lie back down in bed. Margaret, looking drained, left the room with assistance from another nurse. When I closed my eyes, I saw Catherine's smiling face. I had wanted to protect that smile. Why was I the only one still alive? At that moment, I didn't care about my future. Yet, even with these thoughts, my body continued to recover steadily. Soon, I could sit up and gradually stand on my own. Eventually, I was discharged from the hospital. On the day of my discharge, I went straight to Catherine's grandmother's house. I was not able to attend Catherine's final moments and felt the need to pay my respects at her altar. More than 3 months had passed since Catherine's funeral. Relying on my memories, I reached the front of Catherine's house. With trembling hands, I pressed the doorbell. After the chime, a woman's voice answered, "Yes, who is it?" "It's me, Mike. Pardon." She seemed not to recognize my name. I was her fiancé. May I pay my respects to her? Before I could finish speaking, the front door flung open. As I approached the door, Margaret stood there, her face stern. Without warning, she hurled something at me. "You good-for-nothing. How dare you show your face here? I never want to see you again. Just leave." Silently, I accepted Margaret's anger. She looked much frailer than when I first met her. She must have been devastated, having lost Catherine, her only grandchild and family. Feeling her pain, I was left speechless outside the front door. After her outburst, she broke down, falling to her knees in tears. I tried to approach and comfort her, but she said, "Don't touch me. I don't need your help," and stormed back inside, still showing a strong front. I couldn't say a word. I bowed slightly to the empty entrance and left. From then on, I frequently visited Catherine's house. I desperately wanted to pray in front of her altar. No matter how many times I visited, Margaret's attitude remained unchanged. She would just yell at me. Unable to say my goodbyes, I wasn't even allowed to offer my prayers in front of Catherine's portrait. Feeling lost, I returned to my job. I kept telling myself that I needed to be strong, to live a life that wouldn't shame Catherine's memory. So I returned to my previous workplace. There, everyone offered their condolences. Each time, I felt a resurgence of loss and sadness. Still, I immersed myself in work. If I didn't stay focused on something, tears would flow. I couldn't imagine being with another woman after Catherine. Work was different. If I worked hard, I could see the results. That's why I worked all the time. Then, one day, I received a call on my phone from Margaret. For a while, I had visited her frequently, but then I stopped, thinking my visits might be prolonging her grief. Before I knew it, a year had passed since Catherine's passing. "Hello, is this Mike Jess speaking?" Hesitantly, I pressed the call button as I recognized the unfamiliar number on my phone's display. "It's Margaret Catherine's grandmother, Margaret. I'm sorry for calling out of the blue. If you're free this weekend, could you come by?" I assumed she was inviting me for Catherine's first-year memorial service. That weekend, I visited Margaret. "Thank you for coming. Please come in." Margaret, who came to greet me at the door, looked even more frail and seemed lacking in energy. "I brought these. They are from Catherine's favourite pastry shop. Could I offer them in front of her altar?" "That's very thoughtful of you, thank you." I sat in front of the altar and stared at Catherine's portrait. She was captured in a moment of radiant happiness. Such a lovely picture, I murmured to myself while I was praying and gazing at Catherine. Margaret spoke from behind. "It's a beautiful picture, isn't it?" "Yes, very much so." Tears flowed naturally from my eyes. "Oh dear," Margaret remarked, handing me a tissue. "I'm sorry for all the times I yelled at you and turned you away." She bowed her head. "Please raise your head. It was my fault. I shouldn't have let cuffing drop." "No, neither of you are to blame. It was the drunk truck driver. I took out my unplaceable anger on you. I made you suffer." "I'm so sorry. My health hasn't been great lately." "I've been worried about what will happen to Catherine's memories after I'm gone. so I wanted to reach out. Are you okay? Is your health all right? It's a selfish request, but when I'm gone, could you visit Catherine's grave for me? Margaret handed me a piece of paper with the address of the cemetery where Catherine was buried. Please don't say that. I felt a deep pang of sorrow looking at Margaret's sad face. There's also something else I wanted to give you, which is why I called you here today. Margaret placed an envelope before me. The front read, "To the family of the heart donor." What is this letter? It's from the person who received Catherine's organ donation. Please read it. I took the letter carefully, unfolding the neatly folded paper. Inside, upon unfolding the neatly creased envelope, it was densely filled with handwritten words. It contained expressions of gratitude from the person who had received Catherine's heart through transplantation. The letter detailed their gratitude for having been able to breathe the outside air after enduring a long battle with illness. Post-transplant, the handwriting bore a slight resemblance to the way Catherine used to write. The note was adorned with rounded, endearing characters at the corners. Catherine's heart, it's still beating inside someone else. Margaret nodded in silent agreement. It wasn't long before Margaret passed away. I never failed to visit Catherine's grave every month to pay my respects. From then on, I was mostly immersed in my work. Having lost Catherine and now in my 40s, I had given up on the idea of falling in love again. A decade had passed since the accident. Being deeply engrossed in work and being single for so long, my superiors and older colleagues began suggesting I should marry. There were only older female colleagues, except for one part-time lady, and they seemed concerned about my bachelor status, even broaching the subject of arranged dating. I'd always respond vaguely, politely declining each time. Then a woman from another department was transferred to ours. She was 30. Coincidentally, her name was Katie. "Hello, I'm Katie. Nice to meet you all," as she introduced herself with a bright smile. My heart skipped a beat because she had a dimple in the exact same spot as Catherine. For the first time since losing Catherine, I found myself constantly stealing glances at Katie. "Mike, can you work with her for a while?" Snapped back to reality by my boss's words, I responded, "Sure, nice to work with you, Katie." "Thank you." From then on, we worked together constantly. She always gave her best, making diligent notes and always trying hard. "Katie, you don't have to push yourself so hard." "No, I'm okay. I actually enjoy this." "Enjoy? Wow. I can't even remember the last time I felt like that at work." We both laughed. And then she said, "I have been hospitalized for a long time, so I'm just happy I can work now." "Oh, I see. I'm glad you're doing better now." "Yes," Katie responded with a vibrant voice and a cheerful laugh. Her smile at that moment reminded me so much of Catherine, almost making me wonder if they were related. From then on, I found myself longing to see Katie smile and began engaging in light-hearted conversations with her more frequently. When Katie started getting used to working alone, and I was away from my desk for a bit, I found a sticky note on my desk saying I had received a call. Reading the handwriting of the note, I was taken aback. It was strikingly similar to Catherine's handwriting. The characters with their rounded corners looked so adorable and familiar that it took me by surprise. "Katie, did you write it?" "Yes, you had a call a moment ago. They want you to return it when you can." "Oh, okay, thanks." She simply nodded and returned to her tasks. For some reason, I couldn't discard that sticky note and kept it in my pocket. I started to feel that Katie was becoming a significant presence in my life. Around this time, an older colleague started suggesting arranged dates for me. "A friend of mine has a daughter, and I mentioned you." "What?" "She's interested." Why not meet her, just for a chat? No, I really don't. Just meet her. Come on, no. No matter how many times I refused, my senior coworker persisted, trying to get me to say yes. Perhaps noticing my frustrated expression, Katie chimed in with perfect timing, using work as an excuse to speak to me. Mike, I had something to ask you, but are you busy right now? Mike, just think about it, the senior said, trying to push the matchmaking further. Sigh, I replied half-heartedly. Was everything okay, Katie? You're a lifesaver, thank you. So, what did you want to ask? Oh, sorry, I just said that to interrupt you intentionally. Oh, got it. Still, you really helped. It's not right to just meet someone for the sake of it, especially when I'm not interested. In that case, why don't you marry me? Taken aback by her sudden proposal, I was left speechless. Oh no, what am I saying? But when I look at you, Mike, I feel like I'm looking at myself. You feel the same way, Katie. My father doesn't approve of me working because of my lengthy hospitalization. He's worried about my health and pushes me to get married. You're still young, Katie. I'm already 30. Yeah, marriage is a personal choice, right? Aren't you interested in getting married, Mike? Caught off guard by her question, I paused for a moment before replying. I was deeply in love with someone, but we couldn't get married. I can't forget about her. Being hung up on the past at my age is kind of pathetic, right? I chuckled awkwardly to deflect. I want to experience a love like that too. You'll have plenty of chances in the future, but my parents are really pushing for me to get married, like right now. Is that so? So please, pretend to be my boyfriend. You were serious about that? I had assumed she was joking, but the serious look in her eyes made my heart race. If it's just for show, then that's great, since we'll need to know more about each other. Why not go out for dinner tonight? While I was still taken aback, Katie quickly decided on a restaurant and time and got back to work. After that, we started meeting more frequently under the guise of strategy meetings. We discussed everything from how to make a good impression on her father to our supposed shared interests and how we met. As we started spending more time together, I began to notice a budding feeling within me. It was love. Being with her was joyful, and I started to desire to know more about Katie and to spend even more time together. However, I couldn't be honest with my feelings. I figured she probably wouldn't be thrilled about being liked by a 40-year-old man, and more than that, I was afraid of betraying my feelings for Catherine, who was my wife. Holding back these emotions, the day came to visit her house. We agreed to meet near Katie's home, and she led me to her residence. Are you nervous? Yes, very. I was incredibly anxious, a different kind of nervous than when I had visited Katie's grandmother. I was worried if I could keep up the charade. I'm nervous too, but my father was really looking forward to meeting you. I'm just concerned I might mess it up. Katie chuckled softly. When we arrived at Katie's house, she opened the front door, and her parents came out to greet us. Welcome. Glad to have you here, Mike. Please come on in. Suddenly hearing my name from Katie, I was startled. Oh, thank you. I removed my shoes and stepped in, offering the gift I had brought to her father. Here is the gift for you. I hope you like it. Her father just stared at me, not making a move to accept it. Oh dear, thank you for your kindness. Katie's mother graciously accepted it in his stead. I had assumed they would be welcoming since Katie had told me they were eager for her to marry. However, her father's gaze felt penetrating, making me feel exposed. They led me to a traditional sitting room where her father took a seat across from me. Katie, claiming she would help her mother, left me alone with him. Without wasting any time, her father spoke up. I apologize for making you go along with Katie's charade. No, it's... I hesitated, revealing my uncertainty. Look, I desperately tried to smooth things over, but it felt like Katie's father could see right through me. It's my fault. I shouldn't have rushed her into all these matchmaking meetings, resigned. I didn't refute his claims, and just listened silently to what he had to say. She had been hospitalized for a long time in middle school. We discovered she had a serious heart condition. Yes, I heard she was hospitalized. It worsened to a point where a transplant was necessary. Fortunately, a donor appeared, and thanks to that, she's now as healthy as you can see. A donor. When was this? It was when she was 20, so about 10 years ago. In my mind, I pictured Catherine's face. I was wondering, perhaps she looks so full of life now as if she never battled illness. But as her parents, I hope she marries a good man and has children soon. As we talked, Katie entered with a cheerful voice, saying, I made a homemade cake. Keep what I told you a secret from. Her father put a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. What were you two chatting about? Just reminiscing about your past. I had a pleasant time with Katie's parents and went home that day. After debating whether to tell Katie what her father knew, I decided to reveal the truth. After work, I called her to a nearby park. I'm sorry for calling you out here. I wanted to thank you for the other day. Truly, thank you. And about the other things. Katie seemed hesitant, like she wanted to say more. Without noticing her discomfort, I revealed that our secret was out. What? Dad knew. He hasn't said a word since the day you came over. Parents are sharp, aren't they? He actually asked me to keep it from you, but I've been thinking. I want our lie to be the truth. What do you mean? Maybe I got ahead of myself when you mentioned marriage, but I felt that I could fall in love with you all over again. I want to know how you really feel. I also want our lie to become our reality. As Katie confessed this, her face turned bright red. From there, our relationship, which began on a lie, turned into a genuine romance. I've always wondered, why did you ask me to pretend to be your boyfriend? Well, during my hospital stay, I had a teddy bear that looked a lot like you, and something about you felt familiar, like I'd known you before, so I thought you'd be the perfect choice. I see. Seeing Katie's puzzled look, I chuckled. That sense of familiarity, I wondered if it had something to do with the heartbeat of Catherine's heart inside Katie. But my love for Katie wasn't a substitute for Catherine. After 10 years, I took out the photo of Catherine's smiling face from my wallet. I placed that photo, along with the letter addressed to Catherine, deep inside a drawer. Thank you so much. Please keep watching over us. I murmured to Catherine's photo. I hope you enjoyed this. Your subscription to our channel really motivates us. See you in the next video.